There's a chance I'll go to another workshop. Our t-shirt? Yeah.
It's a nice logo.
The Draper Mile is infamous.
Forest years.
Could do a pitchman race.
What is Pitchman?
You can look in your appendix. Pitchman, I'll just go ahead and pitch it to them here. Page 23. Turn to page 23.
Yep.
Pitchman is just a silly idea of how to do a 10 or 30 second intro or pitch. It could be a pitch, like a typical pitch, I'm selling an idea. Or it could be just, hey, I'm presenting, like if you were introducing the next speaker and her name was Beth Lohman, you might do it this way. You would talk about her, you'd either know your purpose and you might say it out loud, or you just have it in your mind. And then you might say, okay, this is Beth Lohman from DEQ, her position is, the department is, and then you might pick two things she's going to talk about today. She's going to talk to you about bicycling and water quality. I don't know why those two would be together, but And then you give a little short 10-second snippet of how you demonstrate those two responsibilities. That's not a good example, but Beth's going to talk about bicycling and how it's good for our community. And so and then demo of that responsibility would be over the last 4 years, Beth's been active in the community. She's helped touch hundreds of people in the community with blah, 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 blah. And then again, her name is Beth. She's with DEQ, and let's welcome her, or something like that. It's just my little silly structure of how someone who doesn't know how to do or structure their intro might do it. And you could play around with this. The closing action question on page 23, it says closing action question. Generally is how you would end it. You'd say, so who's ready to come up and give their pitch? Or who here has ever ridden their bike to work? Or who here has ever poured ketchup? Some silly question just to kind of engage the audience. It comes from a sales example. And in the sales example, the guy who did this, I have a reference somewhere. His example is, what is getting in your way from having you take action to buy this product right now? Something like that. So again, it was a sales model. What could I do to convince you to buy this product today? Or what's in the way of having to buy it? It's just something to kind of close the deal towards the action. So who has your credit card handy? Or So in this case, it might be just a rhetorical question, just to get people thinking, or it could be nothing else except. It didn't have to be a question either. It could be just my name is Eric. I'm with Perfect Presentations, and who wants to give a presentation today, or something something simple like that. That's Pitchman in a pinch, in a little pitch. I did a whole different series on him for some grad students when we were talking about how to go to a conference and what to do at a conference and how to introduce yourself to someone at a conference. And if you're giving a technical paper, how you might do your first 10, 15 seconds when you walk up in front of the group, introducing yourself. Usually you have a host or a moderator for that session and they do your little bio. Occasionally they don't do it or they forget to do it. So it's nice to have yours in your hip pocket in case they forget it. You can say, oh, well, John forgot to do my intro, or you maybe don't say it so rudely. You just say, oh, thank you, John, and by the way, I'm with Virginia Tech. My name is Eric. I work in industrial systems engineering. Two of the things I'm working on are blah, 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 and today I'm going to talk about this paper. Again, my name is Eric, and here I go. Here's my presentation. It's just a simple structure that you could use. I have another version called Storyman. It could be a woman. Where you might, instead of opening with this sort of traditional name, department kind of thing, you might start with a story first, like Joe and his lousy slides. I might do a 10-second version of Joe and his lousy slides to open up without even saying my name first, or 20 seconds. And then later on, oh, by the way, my name's Eric, I'm with User-Friendly Presentations. I've hooked them with a story. Same idea. You can do it in 30 seconds, if you think about that. It also came from the elevator speech idea. If you're at a conference, especially a student who's never been to a conference, and you're looking for a job, and you meet 50 people that week, you want to be able to spout out your story quickly. You meet the CEO of Sony, and you're an electrical engineer, and you want a job with Sony, and you meet him in the elevator, what would you say in 30 seconds? Hey, And here's my little story. I can hook that guy to get his business card. Your closing question might be, hey, can I have your business card? Could we have coffee later today? How long are you going to be at the conference? I mean, something to keep the conversation going, for example. So that's where Pitchman sort of came from. Answer your question?
Yes.
So that's why I included the appendix there, just to kind of give you that reference. And there's a video on my channel on YouTube that I recorded, very rough, but it does Pitchman in about 20 minutes, actually, the whole thing. So let's go on with the fun stuff, and I actually put the slides right into these. So our makeovers, and Beth will get overly represented here with some of the slides she worked on in a different situation, but so we're sort of unfair to Beth, but it gives Eureka a chance to see what happened. And just to be fair, so you know, Eureka, I say this is Beth, but it wasn't Beth. There's a team of about 9 people.
Oh, okay.
And so, as you probably have experience, doing slides with a team of people is very difficult
Yeah.
to change and to...
The asbestos ones are mine. I have to
Okay, you
full
take full credit for
response-
those?
I take full credit for those. I take full credit for every single word on every.
Okay. So here's the slides from the pedestrian and bicycle situation overview. And Eureka, just so you know, we're trying to avoid that, of course, but this was, actually the good thing about this is I was in the room during work as a transit person, invited just to kind of hear about it, how, trying to connect bike pathways to transit bus stops. And so I was sitting in the back there, it was a small room, but I could barely see the bottom here, and you could probably barely see it too. In this room it's okay, but the bottom line with the slide was, tell the manager how much it costs. So the town manager and the town council can decide if they can fund this or not. That's sort of a short version of it. So of course we don't want to do this. We want this. We want something clear, simple, and show me the elements. What are the most important things? So out of that original slide, we kind of go back, and Beth and I worked together virtually. I went back and just kind of started thinking about it and realized, okay, there's really 3 things you want to say here. There was bike lanes and how much they cost. The next thing is the left lanes and how much they cost. And this is painting on the road, etc., how they would do it. The multi-use trails, which as you can imagine, building a multi-use trail is much more expensive, so it's the majority of the cost, but what is the bottom line? What's the total cost? And you can kind of do the math in your head, especially if you're a mathematician, but some of us can't, so we need to spell it out in black and white, and black on blue in this case. Again, town council member who's dealing with 20 issues that day, here's these slides over and over and over, and now with a brighter background is a little more clear, and that was the idea, it was just to really improve the contrast. So that versus our original is a huge difference, obviously. Now, that's just a simple example of a makeover in 2 minutes or less.
So I guess when you put up the whole sheet, it was because you wanted to show that you actually figured it out.
That's one way to think about it, yeah.
I think what happened, we had a graduate student who created the cost tables. And so he just cut and pasted the cost table in instead of taking the time to extract the important pieces, the highlights. He put all the detail in.
And until Beth and I talked, she might have thought this, but until we talked about it offline, she said, oh, that makes more sense. And when she saw it, she's like, yeah, this is, and she actually used these slides, remade or made over. What the grad student, and it's nothing really, no fault of his, he was tasked to make slides, but again, if you're sitting in front of your computer reading this, it's not bad. The issue is we're so we're so, as I say, married to our data, it doesn't even occur to us that the audience wouldn't understand this. It doesn't even occur to us. There's just no reason to question it.
Yeah, and right now you've got the pieces highlighted or circled, so, but.
You could have done that as a Band-Aid, actually.
Yeah, but without those circles, it takes a little while if this is the first time you look at it, it takes you a while to figure out. I would have formatted the table. You don't need all those extra lines,
And Eureka, this was about 20 seconds, actually. She had about 20, 30 seconds to go over the slide. It was one of about 40, maybe, I don't know, it was a lot of slides. So it was in the middle of the presentation, it wasn't like, this is the slide they talked about for 10 minutes. If you had 10 minutes to go through the slide, line by line, and everyone was very close to it, that'd be one thing, but
When you
Just-
have we have like 10 or 12 different lines, colored lines in town, and so there's a data table like that for every line, and it's just like, that's just like,
oh, it would kill you. Imagine doing 10 of these in a row with, trying to explain it. Now, again, you're right, this would have helped.
yeah.
You could even, Beth could have done this on the fly, actually. If she'd known a half hour before the presentation that, hey, I need to do this, she could have probably gone in and done some circles real quick as a Band-Aid. But of course, I think this is really where you want to be. So that's a quick example for you. I actually do a 30-second demo of this on one of my little, I've been playing around with YouTube the last couple of months. This is the actual slide. I can't record it now, which is fine. This is the actual slide from the company. I just cut and paste to show you briefly. This was the logo that I hacked up last time. So Eureka, you see, he has 2 copyrights, so you can clearly see they're two different groups. But this is his opening slide. This is Joe's opening slide. And I see your eyes. You're kind of going, huh? Right. So if he had covered up one of them, whoops. If he had covered up and shown you just the brown one, again, it's not the best contrast in the world, but you would have gone, okay, it's some brown thing, and he would explain what it was. Or shown you just the blue one called Thin Things, he could explain the little extra dot maybe. I don't know, that's kind of a funny thing, but